If there was an incident today, no one's going to ask for your ISO or SOC 2 certificates.
Attackers and hackers, they're not going to wait for you to become compliant. Imagine a breach happened tomorrow, right? The first question that everyone is going to ask is what happened and what did they take? Without a detection and response process, you're just not going to know.
Your feed is now filled with all kinds of AI threats, like most people on the internet. What kind of AI threats are you seeing in your feed?
A lot of what folks see is prompt injection. You have this AI agent with access to a ton of different systems and data.
How do you build a resilient, scalable SOC team today?
I don't think it's going to just replace humans. I do think it'll take tasks that were super slow and repetitive. 100% convinced this is the future. And the faster we get there, the better chance we have at stopping attacks.
It's quite possible you already have a security operations team, but you're preparing to uplift it for AI. And I could not have thought of a better time to talk to Kyle Polley, who is the head of security operation for Perplexity. Yes, this very AI company that is competing with OpenAI, Claude, and everyone else. In this conversation with Kyle, we spoke about why is there a need to build a security operations team before you think about compliance, and does building a security operation team actually give you compliance as well? We also spoke about some of the new and emerging threats from AI for organizations, especially at AI scale, which I'm sure, like us, he's also seeing a lot of it. We also spoke about what's an MVP when you start integrating AI into a security operations team. What are some of the easy lifts you could do, and where is a good place to start, from especially across different maturity levels of how much AI integration is possible. He also spoke about some of the open source work he has released for security operations team to be able to play around with how much AI can be used within security operations team. Now, I can go on about this, but overall, if you are someone who's either thinking about building a security operations team or uplifting a security operations team today, especially in this world of AI as it's quickly evolving, I would definitely recommend listening to the whole episode. It was full of gems. I would also recommend sharing it with other people who you may know who are either curious about this or very much in this particular space. And as always, if you are here for a second or third time, I would really appreciate if you could take a few moments to just hit that subscribe or follow button. If you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, both of them have that too. Or if you are watching this on video platforms like YouTube and LinkedIn, they have the same subscribe and follow as well. It really means a lot when you hit the subscribe and follow button to support us and the work we're doing. I really appreciate that. And I hope to continue more episodes like these that bring you more value and get to see you at other conferences and hear about all the ways we have been able to help you out in your career. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Kyle, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cloud Play Podcast. Today, I've got Kyle. Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show.
No, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, we should probably start with the intro so that people have some idea about what you've been up to, where you're today. Yeah. Would you mind starting there?
Yeah, sure. And right now I'm at the security team at Perplexity AI, focused on all things AI security and building the program out there. I spent a lot of my career in various parts of security, a lot of areas in detection and response, and have done a lot of research and operations there. But in addition, I was an early member of the security team at Robinhood and built the security program at a fintech company called Pipe. And so a lot of DNR, but honestly, I've at this point have had my hands in almost everything related to security.
Excited to build the security operation team at Perplexity as well. But I think when you and I were talking about this previously, you said something which kind of stuck with me, where a lot of people normally focus on compliance first and then SOC, but you went the other way around. I'm curious, why would you do that? And what was your thinking behind it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I do think there are two reasons. One is attackers and hackers, they're not going to wait for you to become compliant and spin up all these resources and infrastructure, right? And so a lot of things, like when talking to leadership and other members of the team, and they're like, hey, why are you going to focus on a SOC and detection and response? And it's, imagine a breach happened tomorrow, right? The first question that the company's going to ask, the enterprise customers are going to ask, is what happened and what did they take? Like, what went wrong? Like, where to go? And without a detection and response process, you're just not going to know. You just don't have the audit logs or the capabilities to uncover what happened. And so you're stuck. And so that's why I'm not saying you have to, like, the first thing you do, just only focus on DNR and build a super mature DNR and not focus on anything else. But at the same time, like, turn on CloudTrail, have it shipped to a bucket, turn on GuardDuty, have it sent to a Slack channel. There's a lot of easy ways to get started that will take you very far that I think is super important. So that's one piece. One piece I think is just super important. The second piece is, I think, a general philosophy that I have with building security programs is if you build a really great security program, compliance just comes along with it and everything becomes super easy. And so to me, it's like, if compliance is challenging, we're probably doing something wrong or we're not doing something that we should be doing. And so I think going at the approach of what makes a great security program, what needs to be done, I found that sometimes being compliance driven leads you down the wrong path. And it's easier to just, go down the happy path of building a great security program, and compliance generally tags along with it.
To be fair to, I think, what you started off with, if there was an incident today, no one's going to ask for your ISO or SOC 2 certificate.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Take on it. That is the reality of it. And I think you hit it on the nail by saying that, because if you know what your important critical systems are, and you just rely on the fact that, hey, I'm SOC 2 compliant, and I think it's just a myth. I won't really say it's a myth. I think it's definitely a understanding between practitioners across the board that being compliant is not the same as being secure. That's just the understanding that people have. I'm talking about being secure as well. Obviously, I imagine your feed is not filled with all kinds of AI threats like most people on the internet. Considering you're on this detection and response space and security operation is your jam, what kind of AI threats are you seeing in your feed these days? And for that SOC teams that you're facing today?
That's another good question. I think a lot of what folks see is, at least specifically for AI attacks, is prompt injection. And there are a lot of ways to mitigate prompt injection these days, and a lot of, especially the brand new intelligent ones, they're pretty good at spotting it and ignoring it. But I think a lot of the issue is that, similar to how engineers, when they write code, they don't necessarily think about the security implications. Very similarly, when they write system prompts or like context engineering, it's called now too, they don't really think about the security implications of that too. And so you have this like AI agent with access to a ton of different systems and data. And it's easy to forget that you need to also instruct the agent to handle untrusted data differently than trusted data, and to like watch out for, here are the things that you shouldn't be doing. I feel like it's very easy to say, hey, agent, here are the things you should do. It's very hard to say, here's the list of all the things you shouldn't do. And I think introducing that, I think that's like a big problem that you see.
I was going to say, you know how there is this allow list and deny list that people talk about in the WAF context and otherwise, broadly speaking, where it's so much more harder for me to say what's allowed versus what denied. Is it the opposite when it comes to AI systems? Or is it more the fact that it's more in terms of data that's being put into the AI system for what's a good data versus what's a bad data? Anything else? Like, where's the thinking coming from?
I think both cases are right. Where this agent has broad access to things, and kind of what you touched on, what's trusted versus untrusted. And so right now, when you're designing AI systems and using AI systems, there's a system prompt and a user prompt. And so when you're ingesting untrusted text, either the user prompt or maybe the agent calls from the internet, and that HTML content is also untrusted, there's no place to put that. So you have to also put that in the user prompt or the system prompt. And I do wonder if, I know actually Meta recently released an open source variant of Llama that includes a third section specifically for untrusted content. So that actually does exist specifically for this purpose. I forget the name of it, but it was released maybe a week ago. And it's just normal. It's normal Llama. It's not like an extra tool or something you have to attach to Llama. It's just normal Llama, but it includes that like safeguard built into the model.
Oh, and I guess it's a good word to use for it. It's more to your point. I guess a general thinking is also that be mindful of the input and output the input that goes into the system, AI system, and the output that comes out of it. In terms of building a SOC for this, I think you had described to me a data lake with detection. And obviously, volume is a huge thing in security operations. It's not that you're only looking at a few gigabytes. There's a reason why all the SIEM providers are so expensive, like when it comes to the data ingestion and data. What does it look like? Obviously, not thinking of it as a compliance artifact. What's your thinking behind the whole data lake with detection for a security operation team?
Yeah, I never liked the term SIM. I don't know why. It just rubs me the wrong way. It just feels so.
The other option was which is a so
Right. Yeah, exactly. It just feels so, I don't know, a little old school to me. Because I think at the time you had like your internal infrastructure, so you had a bunch of Linux boxes, you had like DNS, like network traffic, you have your servers with log traffic, and then authentication, and like 3 different log sources. And so I think a SIEM was designed for those 3 log sources in mind. You're not getting that much activity, and you can easily correlate between those logs, and it does a good job there. Yeah. But I feel like now, one, everything's in the cloud, then you have 100 different SaaS providers, and I just think it's getting a lot crazier. And so that's why I like to say it's like a data lake infrastructure built for detection response, because you see like a lot of the modern SIEM providers literally using data lake infrastructure in the back end. And I think that's what it takes.
And I think maybe to add a few more layers so people understand where you're coming from as well, would you say the data lake concept is more from I guess because you need the context from everywhere, not just one place.
Yeah.
Like at any given point in time, you may be on-premise, cloud, multi-cloud, and I don't know what other AI system or agents having talked to you in English or Chinese or whatever the other language they may use. And you want to be able to look at everything, not just one particular log source. And I think being able to combine that was always a challenge with traditional SIEMs. And I think a lot of people have been promoting the whole data lake piece for SOC teams to begin with. I almost feel like I don't know how people explain this to the executives, because I think a lot of them would have just been told, hey, you need, I think, and to your point, it's an old term. Everyone in that board knows it. How do you change that narrative for, hey, you don't need a SIEM? Detection in terms of building a data lake is the key. And is this data lake being shared by engineering, or are we having our own data lake and they have their own data lake?
Yeah. And that's a really good question. The way I like to pitch it is that like a traditional SIEM just couldn't handle what we're doing. And like, if you want to call modern systems a SIEM, like that's fine. I'm just like, here are the tools that I want to work with, and I want to work with it because they can scale with us. And I think they could digest that. And if they want to call it a SIEM, that's fine. I'm not going to argue about naming conventions, but
whatever gets the budget through.
Yeah, exactly. And I have really thought about the whole idea of, why do we have our own data lake? Why is the security data lake separate from a normal data engineering data lake? Yeah, I like the idea of sharing tools and systems. It seems crazy that the security team is handling sometimes as much data, if not more, than like the normal data team. And security engineers are not data experts. And so why are they dealing with this burden alongside the data team hired to do data stuff? And so I don't know, we've explored ways to build this into, I've definitely spent a lot of time on like side projects, basically using like Spark, similar to what a data team would use, Jupyter notebooks and Spark to do the same as to do threat detection analysis the same way you would do data science. And I think it works on paper. I haven't seen it actually work in practice though. However, actually before we move on to that though, there's a really great talk by Apple's threat detection response team at a Databricks conference. And it was many years ago, but they do use Jupyter notebooks and Databricks for their whole threat detection response operations, which is pretty cool. So I guess that's like the closest thing I've seen until this works in practice.
I believe the Netflix team does that as well. I think I think they were the first ones. I still remember, I don't know if it was my second or third reInvent, and they were on stage talking about data scientists and security. I'm like, why do you need a data scientist in a security team? And this is obviously way before Gen AI and all of that.
Yes.
And I know it just almost seems like they were clearly working on a very different problem than the rest of the world. Everyone thought they were crazy. And now suddenly we are in this AI world going, that kind of made sense.
It made sense. Like, wow, they were onto something.
Yeah. Obviously, they were ahead of the time. And I'll definitely try and link that video from the Netflix team as well, when they were hiring data scientist people too.
I think it sounds crazy. And even now, it could sound crazy. Like why are you hiring a data scientist for threat detection response? But one, I would say it's it was necessary. Like, it is a data science problem, right? It is a big data problem that is very hard to wrangle. And
Yeah.
two, threat detection response up until that point, like, doesn't work. And like, teams are struggling, like, they're burnt out, they're getting false positives everywhere.
Yeah.
Companies are still getting breached. Even like companies who have a massive SOC, hundreds, like millions of dollars poured into just their SOC operation, and they're still getting breached. Like, it doesn't work. So it's like, I do see this concept of something that's got to change. If you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's not going to work out, right?
100%. I would
Yeah.
say that to an extent, I definitely find there's definitely a change in the industry where, at least a lot of the conversations that I've had, I keep seeing a lot more people are maybe even more braver to test this out with Gen AI.
Yeah.
I think earlier, the bar for every time people like you and I would talk about data science, people were like, I don't know, man, Jupyter Notebook. There's a lot of things that I have to learn. I already have so much happening in my SIEM provider that I have to learn. I have to certify. I have to do this. I have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think to what you said in such a simple way, which is actually true, that detection response is technically a data problem. It's just the kind of questions we ask versus a data person would ask to for a business. They just happen to be two different questions. Which is, by the way, a normal concept today for anyone who has an AI subscription. Oh, I want it to be the best, I don't know, LinkedIn post creator. I want it to be the best CISO. I want it to be the best. We're obviously already asking it to be different people.
Yeah.
And I think people are being trained with the idea that, oh, I wonder if it can be my threat detection response person.
Yeah.
With that said, what do you think is required to build a SOC team which is scalable today? I mean, obviously now building on that detection using data lake, or people who may already have a SOC team and they're reshaping it for what AI would look like. How do you build a resilient, scalable SOC team today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like it could sometimes be like, it's the whole industry has been, I feel like things change every month. It's crazy. But this is what I will say. The things that I've noticed that have been consistent are, one, you need a modern system or infrastructure that can scale. And so that means using modern tools such as like Snowflake, some data lake infrastructure that has proven to handle tons and tons of data, because I don't think that's going away. And you can give the best AI agent access to a legacy SIEM, and it's still not going to work because it's querying stuff the way we do. And if we can't query the data we need to query, then it won't either. And so it needs to have some scalable, modern infrastructure behind it. And the next thing I'll say too is, I've been playing around a ton with MCPs, and having at least a very approachable API or some standardized way of querying the data that's like easy to understand and can be applied to like different systems, I think is important too. And so given what I've learned recently about MCPs, like I will at least require every security tool I use to have a robust API, if not an MCP server.
Why is that? What changed?
It's a good question. I've learned that I think the future is headed, you have all these security tools, even outside of security. You have a lot of vendors who are attaching AI to their product. And so now you have, even for like, I think all the modern SIEMs now, you can go to the SIEM, you write a query, and there's a button that says, talk to the AI agent. And I think that's a step in the right direction. But I see the future of, instead of having all of these third-party vendors each having their own AI agents, instead, security teams will have a centralized AI agent with access to third-party tools. And not to show my own project, but literally this morning, I open sourced a project that basically does this. I don't know if you saw that on LinkedIn.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, okay.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I'll put that in.
Yeah.
So basically, what does the agent do?
So it's basically an agent, and it's powered by Cloud Code and MCPs. Let's say you wanted to create a security alert investigator agent. You would simply describe it in natural language and say, hey, this is your task. You're here to investigate alerts. Here are the steps. I want you to look at the alert, run a very in-depth investigation, and note that this is super high level. Write a report about what happened and whether you think it's benign or malicious, and send it to a Slack channel. And that's a pretty complex, imagine like trying to code that, like that'd be super, super complex. But now it's like literally 5 steps in English, And then you give the agent access to your SIEM. In this case, I was using Panther for my example, Panther MCP. I gave it access to the virus total MCP, and I gave it access to Slack MCP. And so I just said, here are the 5 instructions that you need you to follow. Here are the tools that you can use. Every time an alert comes in, go and do those things. And it works surprisingly well. I think it was like, honestly, like one of the moments I've had like that feel the AGI movement, like it's crazy how good it is. And it performs a really thorough investigation. And I think when we talk about hiring data scientists for the team, I think that kind of feels kind of appalling and challenging for a lot of teams, just because that just sounds hard. Like, one, like hiring great data scientists, and then 2, convincing them to work in DNR, which is not a fun, I wouldn't necessarily call it like a super fun place to work at. I don't know if many data scientists would choose to work there. But now you have this AI agent who is really good at querying data, and they have all the time in the world. And so you can have 100 alerts and you spin up 100 agents, and each agent doesn't get tired. They just go in, they perform a really in-depth investigation and do a really good job at it. And so I personally, that's where I see the future headed.
It's funny how you and I think alike about this. So literally yesterday, and you made a post this morning, I made a post yesterday about how everything that I'm seeing today, I definitely believe each department would have its own AI agent as well.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, and this is why I was curious about why your belief about MCP changed, because I'm keeping the thing about challenges for, like, at the moment you and I mentioned MCP, I'm sure people in the audience would have gone, but there's so many security flaws.
Yeah.
Keep that, I'll acknowledge, just pin that on the side for a second.
Yeah.
But outside of all of that,
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that I feel every business unit, I think it will just become the norm. It's almost silly to not have an AI agent per the business unit that understands the context of the AI agents. Sorry, the business unit specifically, what logs it collects, what third parties it's connected to, what am I really here for? What's my purpose? Someone should clearly talk about this. And I don't think the CEO is going to have a hard time talking about this and cannot be loose anymore. Like, you have to really literally type it out because it's going to do exactly what you say. And I definitely genuinely believe where the role of these cybersecurity vendors would be in that world, where, to your point, are we just going to talk to their MCPs or whatever the agent-to-agent protocol or whatever the thing turns out to be? And that's where all of us are just basically asking simple questions for, when was the last time this was seen? Like the whole thing that after people talk about, where reachability is a thing. It's not just about, there's a flaw, but can it be reached from the internet? And if that's a simple question of you and I just asking the question to an agent, I'm like, oh my God, I'll take my money today. That's the feeling most people would have. But it does raise another thing. And I think this is where some people challenge me as well, where there's this whole thing about, is AI helping in this case, or is it replacing a SOC agent? And how do you identify AI use cases that elevate rather than replace a SOC person?
That's a good question, and potentially a hot topic, right? And so I'm on the team of, I don't think it's going to just replace humans. I don't think it's going to take anyone's job. I do think it'll take tasks that were super slow and repetitive, and it will empower the security team to do things that are more impactful to the business and more proactive in security. And so going back to DNR, like right now, security teams, we're losing, right? We're not doing a great, it's very hard. It's a very hard job. And there's a laundry list of things to do. There's a nonstop thing. It's never ending, right? And when I hear that argument of, oh, it's gonna take jobs, it's gonna act as an analyst, and we don't need analysts anymore. It's like, there are 100 other things that we could be working on that are much more impactful, but we're too busy firefighting to even consider it right now. And so I think this future is super bright. If I think of, oh wow, if I don't have to triage alerts, and if I don't have to be like looking at bug bounty reports or static code analysis alerts all day long, what can I do at that time? And it's super exciting to me.
Yeah. I can already think of so many things to what you said, where in a future where you probably keep the same amount of people in your SOC team who are managing agents with summary, because there's a lot of moving parts in detection responses.
Yes.
Every day there's a threat alert coming out. Like identifying is this relevant or not, because your morning starts with a news feed of threat intel for the day, and you're just basically doing in your mind pattern check for, is this relevant or no? Yes, no, maybe, but I need to check.
Yeah.
And the end, you almost feel drained by the end of it to begin with, and then you go after. I built a SOC team, and remember the frustration everyone would have. I think we had a WAF. I won't mention the vendor name, but it was just this tremendous amount of false positives that the team had to go through, and they were just sick of it. I think after a while, I remember we just made the call for, hey, there should be a better way, and they didn't have an API back then. The team wanted to do it, but I genuinely agree the parts where this can go is very exciting for broadly cybersecurity and tech in general for me as well.
So you're saying you had to turn the alert off?
No, so what we ended up doing was we basically we made a feature request for ignore, and we had to basically, on an Excel sheet, we had to make a note of all the things that are control, quote unquote, it can be ignored because, for example, we didn't have SQL injection, but we could set SQL injection alerts. Internet will do SQL injection, great. I don't care.
Like, as long as it didn't actually happen. That's how I always feel about the Okta failed login alerts. How it's like, it worked. I don't need to know this. And so it's like, that's always so funny.
Like, but no thanks. You just wasted my brain cells on something which is not even relevant.
Yeah. But what I love about that is, like, why do you have to go and have this allow list or block list, whatever? And it's because you were limited by how many people could actually be reviewing each alert. And now that burden, like that restriction isn't there anymore. You could just, every alert, just assign a new AI agent to it and have them triage it and deal with it. And maybe once a month, you can look to see which alert created the most false positives. And for cost's sake, you go and tweak it instead of burning out your entire SOC team. Or even worse, turning off the alert entirely and missing a true positive.
Oh my God, yeah. But I'll add another layer to this as well, where there was a whole thing about, we were a cloud native company and we acquired a couple of other, so we became a multi-cloud shop from being a one cloud provider shop in a matter of 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And no one in the team had access or understanding of all the other cloud providers. But in my mind, if that happens today, I would be fine and I would not be panicking for the team. Because you're almost like, oh, well, you have the AI agent. It understands what service is for, and it can help you, to your point, summarize and understand, is this relevant, and help you ask the right question. I mean, I don't know if you find that already, because I feel like there's more to these use cases that people don't even talk about from like how much more simpler life can be with this.
Yeah, this is such a rabbit hole, and it makes me so excited for the future. But if you think about, too, like a lot of modern security teams, I'm sure you talk about on the pod a lot about building guardrails, not roadblocks. And let's almost like this security DevOps operation where it's, we're going to integrate security deep into our processes to make it so it's super easy for for developers to do things securely. And I love that. I love that philosophy. I live by it. I breathe it. But it's very challenging to do. It requires a team of software engineers who are like excel in infrastructure, they excel in product engineering, they excel in every single tool imaginable, right? And so you're looking for these unicorns of engineers in order to actually achieve that goal. But now, if you think about it, it's like, before we had to build these guardrails because we couldn't look at every single PR. And so we needed to make it so engineers can self-serve and do it on their own without security intervention. But now, again, we go back to, you have this automated intelligence that can be like a security expert. Like, they're incredible at this stuff. And so imagine a security engineer like hanging out in the developer's IDE, and it'll say, hey, you should do this instead of that, or hey, like this text is untrusted, you should add some sanitation layer to it, or they're part of the PR and they do a review. And so to me, it's like shifting left used to be like building these massive systems and guardrails that like gently are in the security pipe or in the engineer lifecycle. But now it's just give everyone an AI agent, give every single person a security AI agent. It's with them 24/7. It'll intervene and talk to you, and they can also ask the agent questions. And maybe that's what shifting left is in the future. maybe it's literally just enabling an AI agent.
Clearly, you and I have been drinking the AI Kool-Aid for some time.
I have. I'm all in it. I'm 100% convinced this is the future. And the faster we get there, the better chance we have at stopping attacks.
We should probably end the episode here. Like,
done.
Like mic drop moment, and you walk away at that point. I guess maybe to bring it home as well and come.
Real quick, I'm super curious that you talk to a lot of folks. Like, what is the sentiment?
I definitely believe people have the right sentiment about this. They want to go down the path, but the challenge has been, to what you said, the balance between the old and the new.
Yeah.
Shaking the tree for what has been the process for 12 years versus, hey, I'm going to start from scratch. So much more easier to start from scratch today and not try and change mainframe for some reason. So you're trying to figure out, and I think that's where the friction is coming from the most, where there is a movement in that direction where applications that are being made AI enabled, they're making people think about, hey, MCP server is a thing. We need to have the MCP servers. But at the same time, like, we haven't changed the structures to be driving more AI innovation, because the cost is the thing as well. There's a number of tokens being spent. Then you're like, hey, how long is the experiment going to go? I thought you only needed a month. There are newer challenges, but they're good challenges. Cost is a big one, irrespective of challenges. But it definitely is in that. I definitely feel in all the conversations that I'm having, people are all for it. It's just the question of whether they have something new to prove as a use case for the business to go, hey, yes, we can invest more here. Instead, at the moment, the money is being spent on engineering for we need to be better than a competitor. Which is fair. I get that, which is why I hear a lot of people in the cybersecurity teams, especially in the financial sector, talk about we are improving productivity and all of that using AI. It's productivity. It's not like I'm going through logs. But you talk to a tech first company like a Netflix at that level. Obviously, I haven't spoken specifically to Netflix about this, but Netflix kind of companies, as you said, Rippling and other people who are openly talking about AI and all that as well. Like, they are very forward. They're very open about what they're doing. And I love that. But at that point in time, I definitely feel the big wave would only happen when the bigger enterprises start openly talking about it. At the moment, they're like, what's my competitive edge? I need to make more money. I need to make this faster. How many people can I get rid of? Which is not And everyone also understands there is a gap in reasoning as well at this point in time. That there is yes, you can do summary, but there is a complexity that comes with reasoning that at the moment, perhaps humans are still better, so there's a human in the loop. But I also almost want, which kind of leads me to the context part as well. One of the challenges that a lot of people have is with the context window. To what you said, you made an open source tool, MCP ready. Now, in a small use case, probably it makes really good sense and it's really amazing in a small team. If you were to scale that, and my hope is we can try sparking some hope with all the cloud and security operation people who are listening to this conversation as well. What's a good way to, whether it's a cloud security alert or whether it's a general security alert, how are you tuning, or is it possible to tune detection rule or are we just at that stage where we can do AI triage but can't go that step further? Like, where is the boundaries that you've tested so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. And things like, we could talk about autonomous detection and response, right? And so you can imagine if you're an analyst or incident response engineer and you get an alert and you go to your SIEM, what I normally do is I would start just, let's say I want to look into an IP address. I'll just say, show me all logs with IP address, and I'll like maybe scroll around a little bit, but then I'll hone in, and I can't look at thousands of logs, right? So I'm just going to hone in and improve my query to really dig into what happened. And I found that a lot of MCP clients are capable, Cloud Code is capable of doing this. And so you can actually watch Cloud Code's, the open source tool I use uses Cloud Code, which is why I've talked a lot about this, but you watch it go through these steps and think. And so it'll literally run a query and say, this is too much. It will literally tell itself that. It'll say, this is too much info. I need to refine my query. And it will try again with a better query and eventually get to the answer. It will. And that's why it's blowing my mind so much. And so I'm convinced that with the right MCP the client. And as intelligence gets better, it will reason about things really intelligently in a way that a normal human would. That's exactly, it did exactly what I would have done in that situation. Look at the logs that I have up to like my own context. I have my own context window, right? I'll scroll around a little bit, but I'm not going to look at everything. And I'll say, okay, this is useful, but let me hone in this way. Let me add this parameter to my query, or filter out all this noise to try again and reduce it. I will say too, I think ChatGPT was released like 3 years ago. It's like crazy how fast this is moving, and everything's just improving so quickly, including context window, that we could enter a future where context window just isn't an issue. I could totally see that happening. At this rate, we're moving so quickly that it's just getting smarter and smarter. But honestly, like even now with what we have, it does a pretty good job.
Yeah. I think I was watching OpenAI's researcher talk about how humans view growth. And they said, if you ever watch a plant grow, it feels like it's not growing if you see it every day. But a week later, a month later, it's like significant growth.
Yes.
And it's the same with AI as well. As much as we're all complaining about, hey, it's not good enough. But if you take a step back, it's only been 3 years. And we've been talking about like future, like Back to the Future for how many years? We're still waiting. So I feel in the bigger scheme of things, I think it's all the credit to everyone who's trying to push the envelope on what this would mean as a benchmark. It just takes a moment to realize that we've come really far.
I mean, we wouldn't be like, this discussion would have been like impossible 3 years ago.
You were in the cabin at that point in time. You were in the cabin talking about this like crazy people. And we probably have a cult of people who we believe data lake is the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And no, it'd be this impossible task of automating intelligence. The things that we're talking about now just weren't possible. And now it suddenly became real. It became very possible in just a few years, which is really crazy.
I would also say, putting another lens of the enterprise thing, because the MCP client that you were referring to, are you able to, and I don't know how much down that rabbit hole did you go into, but I'm thinking about from a enterprise perspective, which may want to say include not just Slack or my Jira tickets or my all of that. There's a lot more context required. I'm just going to say a simple example. If someone says, hey, S3 bucket opened to the internet, my CNAP or whatever called it out, and I'm trying to figure out it came into my feed, the AI agent with the MCP that I've triggered for it, it goes ahead and sees that, hey, by this is the region, this is the account number, blah, blah, blah. And there just happens to be a conversation which was 6 months before that Ashish had said, hey, we're making this public, making a decision. I think a lot of people have that use case in mind. Is that, are we far from it? Or have you experienced it?
Yeah, no, you could do that. You can do that now. And it's crazy because you give the AI like some high level instruction, perform a very thorough, in-depth investigation on this alert. And if you give it the right tools, it will search Slack. It will search Slack for that query, for that bucket name. Right now, I don't think an AWS MCP server exists, but theoretically you can imagine like what I would do if I was investigating this. I'll look at the bucket and say, is there anything sensitive in here? What's going on? Nothing stopping it from doing that. You can also find the person, it will look through the CloudTrail logs, find the person who did it, and it'll send them a message and be like, hey, did you do this? The project that I recently open sourced, it doesn't have some like feedback. Like I would love for it to like message the person who did it and say, click this button if you meant to make it public or understand the implications of it being public. And then they click it. And then the agent like, okay, this is fine. Here's the report. It doesn't do that yet, but you can. And I think what's also really cool about LLMs and MCPs is that if you give it some high level steps, it will just go and do it. And Claude it'll be pretty creative. It'll figure out, it'll say, hey, this is what I think needs to be done. But let's say if I, as the engineer telling the agent what to do, if I wanted it to be more specific, if I said, okay, like you could, I guess as the engineer, you can set the bar to how creative you want the LLM to be. So if you're worried about the LLM going off and doing its own thing, you can give it very specific instructions and like literally, these are like the 50 things I want you to do. And it will just go down that list. And so you could gauge like how much you want it to like think critically and do its own thing versus Hey, we have this set process and I want you to follow it. And when you write the report, I want it to be in this structure and markdown, and it's all up to you. And it's all in natural language.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess to your point, it could be a non-exhaustive list as well. You can keep adding to it.
Yeah, you can keep adding to it. And it's like reading a instant response playbook or a playbook just for any operation.
Talking about playbooks as well, what is the structure of a security operation team in today's day and age? And
Yeah,
I feel like the old instant response playbooks may not even apply anymore, but do they apply in this context?
I think maybe a good example is, let's say Google credentials were compromised. An employee was like, hey, I got an alert that I logged in from a state that I'm not in or something, right?
Yeah.
And the playbook would be, one, revoke those credentials, maybe suspend the user in Google Workspace. Two, investigate what that user did with those credentials and see what systems they access and whether there was like lateral movement or something. And then maybe also investigate the machine, the endpoint, like the laptop, to see, okay, how were these credentials stolen? And then write a report about it. And I don't know if that changed very much. That's still the case today.
Yeah.
I think the issue today is there's just a lot more alerts, and it's just hard to keep up with it all. I think the general practice remains the same. And I will say too, I think everything's moving much faster, where, let's say, before, if an employee had a phishing email, there's a chance you could respond to it fast enough to where I'll suspend the user, rotate the creds or something like that. But now you have these automated phishing systems where ask for the username, password, and then ask for their MFA code, and then automatically log in and start spamming like Twitter crypto posts, right? Stuff like that. And so the opportunity to mitigate it is like very small. And I think that changed too. I think that's why there was this big push for automations as code, like SOAR, and now we're going to SOAR. But I don't know how many folks you've talked to who actually have a robust SOAR process.
SOAR is a very sore topic, let's just say.
Yeah, it's SOAR because it's too rigid, right? You like defining these things as code is too challenging. There's too many variables. And so I know there's a lot of great tools like Times, who's really fantastic, like no code, you plug in and play. But then if you look at like really mature SOAR operations, their Times is just like this massive web of little blocks. That's like really scary to look at, and you have no idea what's going on. And I think just having automating intelligence just opens up so many things.
Fair. And maybe if for people who are building a new capability for security operation, I think I was talking to CISO the other day, and they are ramping up their SOC, especially people who are coming out of MSSPs and coming back into the organization now that they realize AI capabilities. What's based on the conversation we have had so far? What would you say should it be a MVP SOC stack in like a mid-market kind of like a medium-sized company? Obviously, large enterprise, they have to go for a SIEM or whatever, legal obligation, regulation, whatever. But for a small to medium-sized company, what's an MVP SOC stack that people can actually build up on based on whatever you're seeing today in terms of team size or team skill or whatever you want to call it, whichever direction you want to go in?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I would say there's a lot of options out there. The ones I would focus on are like threat detection response tools that are focused on or built on modern infrastructure, scalable infrastructure that proved to do well in high throughput environments. I would look at their APIs, and not saying you need to jump into the MCP and AI bandwagon on day one, right? But you want to make sure they're building for that future. Just have that in mind. The company also needs to be aligned on that mission and say, hey, I know there's a MCP, the auth, like no one has auth built out yet, stuff like that, but we're building towards it. And when it's ready, we'll be there. And so as long as you go for a company that does those things, I know like the two that I know have been really forward thinking with AI and MCP, Panther and Run Reveal are the two. And so that'd be like my go-to. But as long as they have those principles, that's really what matters.
What about maturity milestones? If you're building one, like what's a good baseline to think about? Hey, at least have this and then build up. Is there like stages of maturity that you can think of?
Yeah, I would say starting off like day one, don't even purchase a SIEM, just turn on CloudTrail logs and guard duty logs. That's literally, you can do that. You can do that the day you're hired. It's a flip of a button.
Yeah.
And then I would purchase one of those modern SIEM platforms that we talked about, and I would start ingesting critical logs. And I would say only have the absolute critical, because you don't want to just have a flood of alerts. So start with high impact, high severity alerts where there are very little false positives. Things like S3 bucket becoming public is like a really good example. And so I would say, one, start with just very basic guard duty. You get it out of the box, it's great. Okta also has some detections out of the box, it's great. Then have a SIEM where you're collecting those logs in a format that's easy to query. Because keep in mind, for me, especially right now, not talking about AI, just in general, detecting threats is like a Hail Mary. Like, it's very hard to do it. And so like threat detection is great. It's like when all of your other controls fail, you turn to threat detection as like the last resort. And so to me, actually, the value of a SIEM is less on threat detection and more on instant response and being able to query those logs and be able to answer the question, what actually happened, right? And so I would say only alert on like super critical alerts, and make sure that the logs are coming in a format that is easy and fast to query. And then I would say after that step, then you start hiring a detection or response team who could then now start to fine tune those detections and start building out that Hail Mary process where it's like, hey, we want to do our best job at trying to detect the threat as a last resort, because it is super important. I guess the last point is then focusing on automations for instant response. And I think that's when I think you should, even in the age of AI, still focus on those first three. Get to that point where you have a pretty good like detection pipeline and a repository of solid detections. They don't have to be perfect, but a good amount. And then when you're focusing on automation, what I would suggest is now, instead of immediately investing into SOAR or writing your own Python code for instant response, now I think start exploring AI and LLMs.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny. I think I was having a debate with someone on LinkedIn the other day about whether they call it traditional cybersecurity categories of identity, AppSec, detection response, all of these have any value in a world of AI agents. I clearly stand by the fact that considering we're still building applications or embedding AI into existing applications, they still have a lot of value. But I think you validated my point as well, that before you go down that, hey, I'm going to be this agentic AI on one corner, maybe start with the basics. Let's turn on the logs.
Exactly. Start with the basics. And I think you'd be surprised, like going back to that DNR point of like steps 1, 2, and 3 right before AI is still the same. You could, if you hate AI and don't want to use it at all, like you should still do steps 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And so I think the future in an AI world won't look a whole lot different. It's just the tasks that are being run are now handled by autonomous agents instead of humans.
Probably done better as well.
Better, faster, all the things. Awesome. I'm really excited.
I know, I'm excited as well. I feel like every time people are going to think you and I just drinking the AI Kool-Aid. These guys.
Okay, I'm in it. I will get it. That's that. I'm drinking it.
But I guess it's the possibility of what it can do, and I'm seeing what it is doing is just amazing. Obviously, that's the end of the technical questions I have. I've got 3 fun questions for you as well. Sure. General one, which is the first one being, what do you spend most time on when you're not working on solving the security operation detection response problems with AI?
Oh, that's a good question. Just in like life or
whichever one, life or also probably life is probably makes more sense, I guess, in this context.
Yeah, one in terms of work, I just have really enjoyed listening to a lot of the talks and blog posts about people just like messing around with AI. I just think this is a super fun area to be in, and it's constantly changing. And so it's like a really great time to be an engineer, in my opinion. But yeah, outside of that, I've been taking up woodworking and golf. And those are probably the 2 things that I've been spending most of my time on.
Hopefully, we'll see some of your woodworking out of the woodwork.
I'll send some texts. Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Second question being, what is something that you're proud of, but not on your social media?
That's a good question. Ooh, I don't
I'm
know.
not going to say family and other things, but obviously you can take whichever direction you want.
Things that I'm proud of. I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe that means I talk too much. I share my accomplishments too much on. I think something that I guess I'm proud of is I think in security, it's very challenging to have an optimistic view on things. I think it's very easy to go into this rabbit hole of anxiety and burnout. Yeah, ambulance chasing. Yeah. And I don't know, I try to have that mentality of optimism. And I think it's just, it motivates me and drives me. And yeah, that's what I'm proud of. I'd rather spend my energy on trying to build a better future than being upset about the present.
I love that. And no wonder you and I gel so much, man. I think I would have a very optimistic.
This is
I walk around the world with rose-tinted glasses, how people describe it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. But you know what? It's a fun life this way.
100%. You only get one. Why not just be happy in it?
Yeah.
Final question. What's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share with us?
Oh, so I'm located in Austin, Texas. And so Tex-Mex is definitely my favorite dish and cuisine, and fajitas. Just fajitas in general. If it's on the menu, I'm going to get it. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What's yours?
Thanks for sharing that. I actually, funny enough, I have not been in Texas yet, so I haven't had my share of Texas.
No way. You'll have to come visit. Yeah,
I know. I'm like, smoked meat is like my jam as well. I haven't been able to have that in Texas. If anyone has an invite coming, I would definitely take that.
Anytime to come to Austin, please let me know.
I would definitely let you know. But dude, this was awesome, man. Where can people find you to connect with you and talk more about this as well, and the agentic future of SOC as we're calling it now?
Yeah, you could find me on LinkedIn. Pretty active there. I think it's literally just Kyle Polley. And I'm also fairly active on Twitter, just K Polley, and we'll post some links.
Only cybersecurity guy left on Twitter now.
I know, right? I tried Blue Sky and all that, but yeah, no, Twitter keeps throwing me back in.
No, I'm there as well, but dude, I'll leave those links in the description as well for people to check it out as well. But dude, thanks so much for doing this, and thank you everyone for tuning in as well. Yeah. Hopefully we can have this conversation again, but thanks so much for doing this, Kyle.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is a ton of fun.
All right. I'll talk to you everyone else soon, and yeah, enjoy this episode. Peace. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. If you've been enjoying content like this, you can find more episodes like these on www.cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. We are also publishing these episodes on social media as well, so you can definitely find these episodes there. Oh, by the way, just in case there was an interest in learning about AI cybersecurity, we also have a sister podcast called AI Cybersecurity Podcast, which may be of interest as well. I'll leave the links in the description for you to check them out. And also for our weekly newsletter, where we do an in-depth analysis of different topics within cloud security, ranging from identity, endpoint, all the way up to what is the CNAP or whatever a new acronym that comes out tomorrow. Thank you so much for supporting, listening, and watching. I'll see you next time.